Hi folks, it's back with another podcast in TFS Talks. Today we're joined by Cobain from Tollcross Thistle. Sean's on one of the coaching staff, so I'd like to get him in. But before we get into that, I would just like to remind you that we've partnered with the mental health charity Behind Your Mind. So it's quite tough during lockdown. Don't be scared to give them a message. Reach out. They're on my Twitter handle. But let's get over to Sean. How are we doing today, Sean?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Greg. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to it.
Not a problem, mate. I was quite happy to get you on. I played against your team last year, and I thought you were a decent side, and I just wanted to get you on, and I deal with the Twitter as well quite a lot with TFS, so we'll just get into it. So what is it you do at Tollcross, and how's that going for you?
So for Tollcross, I'm kind of the assistant manager. So my responsibility is effectively organising training sessions for the boys. So we just train once a week. So kind of important that we maximise that hour that I have the boys for. And then kind of my responsibility is setting up training drills before the games and making sure the boys are ready to go. This season's obviously a bit kind of disappointing how it's going at the minute, which obviously can't be helped with everything that's going on. But we're having a really good season this year, probably one of the best years that we've had. Kind of won a competition early on in the season, and then obviously with the Scottish getting to the semi-finals of the Scottish Cup just before obviously lockdown all started. So it's been a really good season this year. Teams really kicked on again after a good year last year.
Definitely, mate. You can see looking at the leagues that you guys and Sandy's are just. I'm not being disrespectful, but you are kind of out there. You've got the two of yous are just a wee bit further ahead than everyone else, and you have both done well in the Scottish as well. So it's good to see two Leafa region clubs anyway, because that's the region I play in, doing so well in the national cups like the Scottish. So how's the Scottish been for you? Have you been do you think you have been doing quite well in your performances, or do you think you've had a few tough games on the way?
Yeah, definitely some really tough games. I think, obviously with the Scottish, you have to say it's, look at the draw as well. And we were very fortunate that probably the first 4 games in the Scottish were home games, but they were all against really good footballing sides. There was in particular the team from Saturday morning in Glasgow, Nico's, came through a really good side and we had to put a really good performance in. But since Christmas, so when we got the last 32, we got Bannockburn, probably one of the best teams I've seen in amateur football. And we went through today, we were 2-0 down, and we came back and won 4-2 and put in a really good performance. It was quite comfortable in the end. And then we had some tough games away up in Dundee, and then we had to go to East Kilbride, who again are one of the best football and amateur sides I've seen. So to beat them in a replay was great, and again relatively comfortable. We beat them 2-0 at the Oriam, and we looked good, and we definitely deserved to go through. And obviously we're playing against the favourites in the next round whenever that may be, so obviously it could be a good few months still, but delighted that we know we've at least got a semi-final against Eastfield to look forward to.
They're a top side, Eastfield, as far as amateur games goes, mate. So you've got that to look forward to. Have you been keeping everybody on their toes over lockdown, sending them out their 5Ks, or you've been quite kind to the boys so far?
We've not really sent anything back. We're quite fortunate. A lot of our boys, I've noticed them posting their 5K and 10K times up on Instagram and Facebook, and obviously with this was it the 5K challenge, was it nominate 5 and donate 5. We've seen a lot of the boys some really impressive times. I think one of the boys got under 20 minutes, which was a good probably 10 minutes better than the time I did. So yeah, the boys are yeah, we've seen some of the times are absolutely ridiculous, so there might be some cheating going on there, but yeah, the boys are, from what we know, we're kind of keeping in touch as much as possible. As soon as we get any information, we're sharing it with the boys, and we just really want to hit the ground running as soon as this is over, whenever that may be.
Definitely, mate. So it was, I've been speaking to the guy that runs your Twitter account a lot, because he contacts me sometimes regarding some players I post, and just sometimes just general chit chat about Leafa and all that. So what's your views on team finder and what I do?
Yeah, I think it's really good. I think for me, I'm not from Edinburgh originally, and I moved to Edinburgh probably about 12 years ago, and I was kind of interested to get back into football. I didn't really know any teams in Edinburgh, so I kind of just stopped playing. And as you get into, you start losing kind of the will to play, and then that's when I kind of got into coaching. So I think it's a great idea. As anything that's going to help players stay within football is surely a good thing.
All right, thanks very much for that, mate. I appreciate it. So something that you maybe looked at when you were playing, did you just feel like when you came down there wasn't enough clubs kind of openly looking for players, or did you just luckily you didn't know anyone down here when you moved? Was it just a complete new sort of situation for you?
Yeah, it was kind of a bit of both. I'd kind of just bought my first house. Started got a promoted job within the bank that I was working in at the time. So kind of football wasn't necessarily a priority, and then I kind of started getting into running and trying to do 10Ks, half marathons and that. And I just didn't really know anyone who was running a team. I'd met Alan, and then a few years later, who obviously runs Tollcross. But at the time, I wasn't really that. Didn't really know any teams that I could actually go along and train with. So I kind of just stopped playing, and then, as you know, it's quite hard to get back into it once you've stopped playing for a couple of years.
Definitely. So after the running, where was it you went there next? Then did you play again, or did you just go straight to coaching?
Yeah, so I went to actually Dalgety Bay in Fife. So one of my mates who I was working with at the time, he was playing for him, so I went and played for Dalgety Bay, and I played about 4 or 5 games, and kind of did a knee injury, but I was training for a half marathon at the time, and I stupidly just didn't rest it, and ran a half marathon with kind of a dodgy knee. And ever since then, my knee was always really just flare up all the time. So stopped playing, and then had probably a couple of years away from football, and then got involved with Hutchie Vale, coaching one of the youth teams.
Definitely, mate. It's hard when you see boys stuck with injury. I suffer myself, but I've not gave it up yet. But do you think that if you'd still been fit, you think that you still have played, or do you think still, even with the opportunities, you'd been struggling in Edinburgh?
I think I probably would have. I would have liked to think I would have played a little bit longer. But when I got the opportunity to go along to coach at Hutchie, and help it was one of my mates' dad, who was crying out for help there, and they were just about to go up to 11-a-sides. And I've always kind of wanted to get involved in coaching, and it was just kind of it's obviously one of the big boys clubs, not just in Edinburgh but in Scotland. So getting involved with them was, probably took priority over playing, and I gave it up to focus kind of on my coaching.
So what was your first thoughts when you went to Hutchie Vale? What did you think of the club?
Really good. Lots of some of the football players that were there were frightening. And I think when you go into the clubhouse there, from the outside it doesn't look the best. It's just kind of an old shed. But when you go in and you see the trophies and you see some of the players that have played there previously, it was great to go in there. And I think I coached there for about 3.5 years. And we had a lot of success. We won a league title. We got to, I think it was about 7 or 8 cup finals. Got to play a cup final at Tynecastle, which was a great experience. And they definitely are set up for success, and success is vital to them. They want to continue to progress as many youth players into the pro game as possible.
Definitely, mate. So when did you realise that you were maybe quite good at coaching then, would you say? Because you're now helping out at Tollcross, so you must be doing something right. When did you make the jump from youth football to men's football?
So I'd actually moved back to Fife, and one of my mates runs is head coach there at Pittenweem Rovers. So he'd asked me to come along, and just started to probably enjoy it a little bit more. When you coach youth football, the problem with youth football is you have to deal with parents, and the parents were definitely the worst part about youth football. You would quite often be standing around after the game for another couple of hours just speaking to parents about why their son maybe only got 10 minutes, why they were maybe playing a slightly different position. Well, I think in adult football, you kind of guys just accept it a lot more. There was also the social side of it's quite good in amateur football, where you can head back to the pub after the game and have a right laugh. So I think then that's when I started to really enjoy it. It was probably a little bit harder at Pittenweem because a lot of Pittenweem's players were guys that I've grown up with, and I used to play with myself, so it was quite hard to coach them. Well, with Tollcross, it's a little bit easier because not one of the players knew who I was when I came in, so it was a lot easier to actually coach and implement some of my ideas.
Definitely, mate. So, look, right now you're the assistant. You're quite happy with Tollcross, but do you ever see yourself going as a manager somewhere?
I wouldn't say so, no. Certainly not at the minute. I think me and Alan have a really good relationship in terms of the things I don't particularly like doing, which is maybe, picking, doing the team talks, maybe telling players why they're not in squads and that. I don't particularly like that side of it. So Alan kind of Alan gets told that he has to do those bits, and I get to do the fun stuff like organising training. And that's kind of where what I enjoy the most is organising training sessions, getting feedback from the boys about what's working, what's not, looking at the tactical side of it, and how we can maybe get an edge over our opponents. So I think for me, really happy at Tollcross. We've got a great bunch of boys there, and obviously we were on course for a really successful season this year. So for me, there's a lot of kind of unfinished business with Tollcross that, for me, I'm not kind of looking anywhere else. It's kind of focus on next season with them and hopefully have a lot more success.
Definitely, mate. So what would you say is like the, obviously it's an amateur game, but these are doing really well. What do you think makes you such a good team? I'm not just trying to blow smoke, but like you've obviously had a bit of success the last season. What do you think has led to that?
I think a lot of it comes down to obviously it's easy just to say the players, but it's more about the attitude of the players at training. As I said, I've got them for an hour a week, so for me, they have to stay fit throughout the week. They have to be going to the gym, going for runs, and it makes my job easy. I've got an hour to plan, and they push each other, probably more than what me and Alan have to do. So I think the players is probably what's kicked us on to a different level this season. We've been fortunate enough. We've had boys in the Scotland set up playing for obviously Leafer Select as well, and I think having those real competitive training sessions, I always find whenever our training sessions are really high, the tempo is there. I don't have any worries that we're for the weekend. I know whenever training's good on a Thursday night that a Saturday night on a Saturday we're probably going to win. So I think for me it's just the attitude about it taking us.
Sorry, you've cut out a wee bit there, mate.
Oh.
You cut out a wee bit. I don't know if your signal or maybe dropped. Would you go back and repeat that? Sorry, it just didn't pick it up.
So I think for me it's more down to the boys. So it's always down. I think that's why we've been so successful. I think that attitude of the boys, they come to training ready to have good training session. No matter what exercises I do, they always make sure that they they kind of invested in it. And the tempos, whenever the tempo's high at training, when we go into match day, it's the same. Whenever we have a high tempo session on Thursday, I normally know on a Saturday we'll probably go in and win the game because the session's been good on the Thursday.
Mm-hmm. So do you think it's just because of the coaching side, or do you think you've got a few leaders in your team as well? Is there maybe anyone in particular that stands out, or do you think you've got like a good amount of leaders right throughout the team that does this?
Yeah, I think we've got a load of players who they want to win. We've got a few players that love to have a wee moan at training, but you need that. They're the ones that keep the other players on the toes. We've got boys who love to, jump into tackles even at training. And I think, having those leaders makes it easier for me and Alan, that we don't need to say too much. We can set up the training drills, tell them what we want to see, and then they go and implement it. So I think it's key having those players who are, have that winning mentality at training, because it pushes everyone else on.
Definitely. So what do you think you'll do when we go back then? Do you see them finishing leagues, or do you just see it getting, points per game and they just let you play out the cup?
For me, I think this season the league should be voided. I think points per game, I don't think it works. I think it would only work if everyone's played the same number, effectively played all the same teams. You might have a team that's played an easier schedule than someone else, and then they get kind of given the title. I think from our point of view, you always want to earn a title. And I don't think, looking at all the leagues in Leafa, they're all relatively close. There's not much points between the top 2 or 3 teams. I would love them to play the cups in pre-season. For me in particular, the Logan Cup is probably the big cup in Leafa. And for me, that could replace the Champions Cup, which normally gets played every, July, August. I have a feeling they might just avoid everything. It might be easier for them. Obviously, it's not an easy decision whatever way they go. But I think if you avoid everything and then just start afresh next season, is probably the fairest way to all teams. Definitely think a restructure of the league, because we've only got, I think it's 9 teams in the Premier League. So certainly, we probably need 3, maybe 5 teams to come up to the Premier League to make it a 12 or 14 team league.
Personally, look at this season. I would say you're probably best going for maybe a 14 or 16, because there's been cases where teams haven't been fielding players, and I'm not digging at these teams, by the way. You can't blame them. It's hard to attract boys to teams when you aren't winning every week. But I think that should a team decide to fold or drop out the league, at least it means that you're only, a 9-team league doesn't look the best for the Premier. Would you prefer it?
Exactly. I would prefer more teams. I think the more teams are in it, I think we were saying at the start, the Premier League is kind of broken into your top kind of 5 or 6, and then you've got your bottom 5 or 6, and obviously that looks a lot worse when there's only 9 teams in it. And it's hats off to the teams that maybe it would have been easier. I think, for example, Dander Hall, I think, they're a testament to an amateur team in terms of it would have been easy for them to fold this season because they were struggling for players, and what they did is they kept persevering. Yes, they had to call games off, but they never folded. And I think for me, if we've got more teams in it, there might be that less teams folding, because I think we had about 2 or 3 teams have folded this league in the Premier League. Hence why we've only got 9 teams now.
Do you think taking 7 teams up to 16 would be too much, or do you think that would probably be, would that suit you?
I suppose it depends on all the cups, because obviously if you think about, probably you said ourselves and Sandy's had a long win in the Scottish and the East. So if you add all the cups
season, be a lot.
It's probably a lot. Yeah, it'd be a lot of games. So therefore, obviously it's the extra cost of booking pitches. So for me, I think probably at most a 14 team minimum has to be 12. Has to be a 12-team league minimum. So it'll be interesting what Leafa do.
Definitely, mate. So, is there anything you'd like to add at all for anyone that's listening, maybe about yourself or Tollcross at all, or you quite happy with that?
Yeah, no, I think for me, obviously from a Tollcross point of view, we just kind of are raring to get started again. And I think, from speaking to boys in other teams, I think everyone's still the same. Obviously, we appreciate it's kind of unprecedented times at the minute, but the sooner we can get back to football. You touched upon the mental health part, and it's something that I've suffered from in the past with my mental health, and actually being able to get out and play football again and do exercise and just be with the boys again. It's I think we're all in the same boat. We just can't wait to get started again, and whenever that will be, I'm sure those in charge will be sensible when they tell us to go back, and hopefully it's fair for everyone. As I say, I don't think anything should be handed out. I think everything should be earned. So for me, it's league titles, cups, and that. If we can play them again, let's do it. If not, let's start afresh.
Definitely, mate. You're spot on with the mental health. The social side of football, I don't think people realise it, and I think people don't realise how much a effect it has on your health, because there'll be a lot of players out there who are not playing that are struggling now. So I think that's a massive message to send in that. Have you had any of your boys come forward at all? Are they all managing all right so far?
Yeah, not that I've spoke to a couple who some have actually quite enjoyed being kind of locked in at home, because whether their job, whether they were maybe travel stints or that, or they've been kind of new parents, and getting to spend time with the kids, and that is great. For me though, I've been fortunate. I've still been working in the office, so I'm quite fortunate. My work's still open. I still get to go and interact with other people. But it is key, if anybody is sitting there and they listen to it and they are struggling with mental health, go and speak up, go and speak to your teammates, speak to the coach, speak to the manager, just reach out to someone. I think for me as guys in particular, we're probably the worst for bottling things up, and as the football is a release for so many people. So fingers crossed we can get back going and doing the thing we love as soon as possible.
Definitely, mate. It all goes hand in hand. Well, I would just like to say thanks for coming on, and anything you ever need, just give us a shout. All right.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on, Greg.
You're very welcome, Sean. Pleasure, mate.